There's a kind of person who walks into your life not with kindness, but with a mirror, not to reflect who you are, but to bend your image until you don't recognize yourself anymore. They smile, they flatter, they charm, and little by little they erase you. You don't even notice it at first. One compromise here, one apology for something you didn't do there. You begin to walk on eggshells. You doubt your instincts. You question your memory. And worst of all, you wonder if maybe the problem is you. But then comes a moment, quiet, small, maybe even accidental, but it's the beginning of the end. A word, a look, a pattern repeated once too many, and suddenly it clicks. You see them, not the version they present to the world, not the mask they use to win sympathy or admiration. You see the engine behind it all, the manipulation, the calculation, the hunger for control, dressed up as concern. And from that moment forward, something inside you begins to shift. Because the second you truly see someone for who they are, there's no unseeing it. And when the one who's been pulling the strings realizes that you're no longer dancing, that's the moment they start to fear you. They don't come at you with horns. They don't wear warning signs. In fact, they often arrive as everything you thought you needed. Charming, attentive, even vulnerable. But what you're seeing isn't real. It's a mask. The narcissist builds an entire identity on illusion. Every interaction, every compliment, every I care about you, all of it is part of a performance, not for connection, but for control. See, these individuals don't thrive in truth. They thrive in confusion. They will make you question your memory, your emotions, your intentions. They will twist stories until you're apologizing for things they did. They'll cry just enough to make you feel cruel for pulling away. And when that doesn't work, they'll turn cold, distant, just to make you chase them again. It's not a relationship, it's a transaction. And you're the currency. But beneath all the masks, beneath the arrogance and the grandiosity, there's something else. Something hollow, something terrified. Because for all their bluster and bravado, the evil narcissist fears one thing above all else: exposure. The fear that one day, someone will see through the act. Someone will look them in the eyes and say, "I see you, and I'm not afraid anymore." To them, that's not a statement, it's a threat. Because once you see the trick, the magician has no power. Once you break the illusion, the spell is gone. And now, they're not in control anymore. The moment you say it, everything shifts. I say you, that sentence, so simple, yet it slices deeper than any insult ever could. Because now, the mask is useless, the game is up. You're no longer dancing to their tune, and they know it. Watch what happens next. They don't retreat quietly. They explode. They scramble. First, they'll accuse you. You're the problem. You paranoid. You're twisting everything. Then they'll plead. I didn't mean it. You're misunderstanding me. I just love you so much I didn't know how else to act. And if that doesn't work, they rage. Because panic has a face, and it's not always screaming. Sometimes it's charming, sometimes it's silent, but it always smells like fear. They will pull out every old weapon they've used to control you: guilt, shame, gaslighting, nostalgia. They'll remind you of good times, of what you once meant to them, hoping you'll flinch, hoping you'll doubt, hoping you'll come back to the illusion. But you don't, because now you know what's real. The truth is, narcissists don't fear confrontation. They live in it. They manipulate chaos like an artist with a paintbrush. What they fear is clarity. Your clarity. Your calm. Your refusal to react. Because when you stop reacting, they lose control. And when they lose control, they lose everything, not because you're louder, not because you fight back harder, but because you no longer play the game. And to them, that's terrifying. See, they never expected you to understand. Because once you understand the pattern, you can never unsee it. Once you recognize the manipulation, the twisted words, the games, they no longer work. It's like a magician caught mid-trick. The illusion breaks, and the power vanishes. That's why understanding is so dangerous to them. They thrived when you were confused, when you second-guessed yourself, when you felt the need to explain, defend, or apologize for just existing. They fed off your doubts like it was oxygen. But now you've cut the cord. You know how they operate, you've seen the cycle. Idealize, devalue, discard. You've felt the highs and the devastating lows, but now you finally know it was never about love. It was always about control. And here's the part they can't stand. They can't take your knowledge away. They can scream, they can lie, they can twist your words, but they can't undo the moment you saw through them. They can't reverse the clarity you've earned with blood, tears, and sleepless nights. And without your confusion, they can't dominate. Because power over someone isn't physical, it's psychological, it's emotional. And once your mind is free, your heart follows. You no longer react when they push your buttons, because you've disconnected the wiring. You no longer try to win their approval, because you finally know your worth doesn't depend on their validation. You no longer explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, because now you understand them. That is what they fear, not your anger, not your resistance, your clarity, because clarity gives you power, and power is the one thing they never wanted you to find. You've come to the crossroads, the place where the cycle either repeats or it ends. And now it's your move, because here's the truth they never wanted you to learn. You don't break the narcissist by fighting them. You break the cycle by refusing to play the game. They want chaos, they want conflict, they want you explaining, apologizing, unraveling. That's where their power lives, in your reaction. But when you stop responding, when you stop caring what they think, when their words no longer reach you and their silence no longer rattles you, that's when you've won. You see, walking away isn't just a physical act. It's emotional, it's spiritual, it's the reclaiming of your soul. It's the moment you stop waiting for closure, for justice, for that one apology that will never come, because you've realized you don't need it anymore. They can't guilt you into coming back. They can't shame you into staying silent. They can't bait you with kindness or break you with cruelty. You've seen it all before, and now you see through it. And once you truly detach, fully, completely, they become powerless. Yes, they'll try to circle back. They'll whisper the right words. They'll cry the right tears. They'll pretend they've changed, but you'll know better, because the patterns never lie. The past never forgets, and people who destroy your peace once will do it again if you let them. But this time you won't, because you've cut the cord, you've found your center, and you're done living your life under someone else's spell. You are not broken. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You were manipulated, gaslit, controlled. But not anymore, because now you stand in your truth. And that truth sets you free. And when the silence comes, it doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain. It just ends the war. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is not defeat. Silence is power. You don't yell to be heard by someone who never listened. You don't explain yourself to someone who distorted every word. You don't try to prove your worth to someone who fed on your doubt. You simply stop. That is what crushes the narcissist. Not your rage, but your calm. See, they can handle confrontation. They love the noise, the drama, the reaction. That's their oxygen. But your indifference, that's starvation. You're no longer a source of attention, admiration, or pain to exploit. You've become untouchable. You don't flinch when they smear your name. You don't chase when they ghost you. You don't collapse when they discard you. You watch, you breathe, you walk away. Because now you know, peace is louder than chaos. Stillness is stronger than storms. And when they look at you and see no fear, no craving, no need to engage, they feel something they can't manipulate. Emptiness. That's what terrifies them. Not being hated, not being confronted, but being irrelevant. You didn't need to destroy them. You simply reclaimed yourself. And for someone who built their power by stealing your sense of self, that is the ultimate blow. But don't be fooled. Just because you've walked away doesn't mean they won't try one last time. Because narcissists, they don't lose quietly. When the manipulation fails, they switch mask. The villain becomes the victim. The abuser becomes the misunderstood soul. And if you're not prepared, if you're not grounded in truth, you might start to question yourself again. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe they're really hurting. Maybe they've changed. No, they have. They've adjusted, and there's a difference. This is the final stage of the cycle. Not reconciliation, not redemption, but recapture. They will test the locks on every emotional door you've shut. A kind message, a fake apology, a nostalgic reminder of the good times. But it's not about healing, it's about access. It's always about access. The second you respond, even out of kindness, the cycle begins again. And this time they'll come back stronger, more calculated, more desperate, because now they know you're capable of escaping. That's the danger of breaking free. You become the one who got away. And narcissists don't like to lose what they think they own. So you must remain firm, not cold, not cruel, just clear. No second chances, no emotional loopholes, no illusion of maybe this time will be different. Because if you let them back in, you're not just risking pain, you're giving permission. You're telling them you still have a chance, and they will take it every time. So here's the truth. The battle doesn't end when you walk away. It ends when you stop hoping they'll follow. That's when they truly lose. That's when you truly win. And now, you know the truth. Not a truth born from bitterness, but from clarity. Not a truth that calls for hatred, but one that calls for freedom. You've seen the pattern. You've felt the weight of their manipulation, and you've stood tall in the storm. So, don't let that awareness fade. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You just need distance and peace, because that is what breaks the cycle. That is what starves the narcissist of power. When you stop feeding the fire, the flame dies, and in the silence they leave behind, you'll start to hear something else. Your own voice, your own truth, your own strength. So if you've ever doubted yourself, if you've ever been gaslit, guilt-tripped, broken down, remember this. You saw through the mask. You refused to be played. You didn't just survive the game. You ended it. And from now on, every step forward is yours alone. Every boundary you set is a declaration of your worth. The narcissist may never change, but you have. You've changed by waking up, by reclaiming your reality, by standing in your power without needing anyone's permission. So let them fear you. Let them rage. Let them vanish. Because what they fear most is already happening. You're no longer under their spell. You're free, and nothing, not their lies, not their tactics, not their charm, can take that away from you. This is your new beginning.